Hello and welcome to Empire of Wargames. My name is Senpai and today we are talking about the Craftworlds Combat Patrol box. If you're interested in savings, points, upgrades and so on, you've come to the right place. If you enjoyed the content, consider leaving a thumbs up and subscribing, as well as checking the links down in the description below if you want to support what I do. As always, you can find interesting links and other information down in the pinned comment below, like for example links to my two videos where I covered Combat Patrol alternatives for the Craftworlds specifically. So if you are not fancying buying this box because you don't like the box composition or something, there are a lot of other lists I have suggested, also based on Craftworlds and so on. So if you're interested in checking that out, all of that is in a pinned comment down below. Alright, so we are talking about the Craftworlds Combat Patrol box. It says Aeldari on it for some reason, because while yes, it is an Aeldari Combat Patrol box, in a technical sense, it is more specifically a Craftworlds one. Aeldari, for me at least, kind of encompasses Dark Eldar and Harlequins and everything Aeldari. And this box doesn't offer that. So yeah, I'm a little bit confused why it doesn't say Craftworlds, but it is what it is. You know what I mean. And yeah, so how about we talk a little bit about what's in the box. So first things first, let's talk a little bit about the box itself. You're getting 19 miniatures for your money, and you're getting some older models, like for example the Wraith Lord and the Wind Raiders, although the Wind Raiders are a little bit more recent. And you're getting some newer models, like for example the new Guardian Defenders or Storm Guardians, which just released this year. So it's a little bit of a mix between new and old. And yeah, let's take a look at all of the different units one by one. So first up is our HQ choice, and we have the Farseer here. The Farseer is probably the best choice GW could have gone with. They included them in the Start Collecting of yesteryear as well, and it's just the best HQ choice that you can just put into a box, make it generic, and just make it work. Although I think that the Spirit Seer looks better, I think the Farseer is more effective at what he does, and the Spirit Seer is more focused on Wraith units as well. So yeah, there's really not much more to add here. The Farseer is super effective. You usually want to run two of them, so if that gives you an indicator whether this box is worth it multiple times, probably yes. So yeah, the Farseer, just a great inclusion all around. If you already have like two of them, the box loses a lot of value suddenly. And next up is our troops choice of the box, and it is the new Guardian Defenders kit. The kit released this year, and it offers all the different bits you need for Guardian Defenders as your ranged option for the troops, or as Storm Guardians as your melee option for the troops. You're getting a lot of bits, different weapon options, especially for the Storm Guardians. You have fusion blasters in there, power swords, your flamers in there, and you have the weapon platform, which can also be a serpent platform, I think it's called. And that one offers you an invulnerable save, but the weapon platform also has different weapons, like the missile launcher, the bright lance, and so on. So it is a very, very versatile kit, and it's great to see it here. Even though Guardian Defenders and Storm Guardians are not quite seen as a really good unit, they're kind of a tax for your army, and a lot of competitive and semi-competitive players are usually trying to avoid them, while your narrative, crusade, or casual list will definitely feature at least one or two squads of them, because they are just very iconic units. And next up we are going to talk about the fast attack slot, and that one is populated by two kits of Wind Raiders. You're getting 6 of them total, and they are a slightly more recent kit. I think that one released during 7th edition. And yeah, they still look great. They're a little bit weird at the moment when it comes to the meta, simply because of Armor of Contempt, and a lot of their weapons have either AP-1 or just damage 1, but a lot of shots. So yeah, their weapons are a little bit weird, and they are not great in melee. If you look at the model, they don't have any melee weapons. So yeah, they're a little bit weird when it comes to the meta, but for anything else, they are still great. And yeah, I just consider them being really, really good. Now, the one thing that is probably a slight deterrent from buying this box twice is the fact that you're getting 6 of them, and you need to have a clear plan on what to do with 12 of them if you buy this box twice. But we are going to go into that in a little bit. And last but not least, we have the Wraith Lord in here. The Wraith Lord is a slightly older model, but it still holds up very, very well. All of the Wraith units do, and I still think that the Wraith Lord looks great. The Wraith Lord has a ton of weapon options, can have 2 shoulder-mounted weapons that are very different, can have a sword, can have 2 arm-mounted or wrist-mounted weapons. So you have a lot of options with this one, and this one can go from 100 points up to 165 points. So yeah, There are really no limits for this one. It got shifted from the heavy support slot to the elite slot, which is important to mention because I have to get used to that every time I write a list for a Craftworlds. But yeah, I think that the Wraith Lord is definitely a fine unit, although the elite slot is very, very highly contested for the Craftworlds. So whenever you are building a list, or if you are someone who plans their army out as a kind of 2000 points army, and you want to kind of populate all your different slots, make sure that you have enough elite slots for whatever detachment you're going to go with, because yeah, you're going to have a lot of stuff in there. So just as a quick conclusion on what's in this box, I think that the army composition itself is great. We are getting a lot of variety in this box, but the one thing I have to criticize is definitely that we are getting 2 kits of Wind Raiders. I would have preferred 1, and something else generic that would have been universally useful, like for example a War Walker, or you know, whatever else you could think of. Just add a little bit more variety into this box and to make it a little bit less annoying when buying 2 of them, but that is just my personal opinion on the box. Other than that, there's really not much more to criticize about it. And next up, we are going to talk about the savings, and I had to double check these ones because the savings were incredibly high looking, and I wasn't sure if that is the case for all the Combat Patrol boxes, but I don't quite have a reference for this specific box because I haven't reviewed it yet. So this is the first review on the channel for this one. And when we look at the savings, it is around 40%, and that is incredibly high. So if you notice any kind of mistake in my math or in any kind of numbers you see on the screen, please drop them down in the comments below, and I'll include them either in the pinned comment, or I'm just going to pin your comment depending on what it looks like down in the comments below. So yeah, the cost for the Combat Patrol box is the same as all the costs for the Combat Patrol boxes. It is £90 or local equivalent. And this one is a little bit cheaper for the Australians. It is one of the 210 Australian dollar ones. So yeah, the value here is still incredibly high with 40%. So yeah, the savings for this one are just through the roof. And next up, we are going to talk about points and power level. If you were to take just what is on the box art and throw it onto Battlescribe, it would look somewhat like this, although the Wraith Lord is completely vanilla. So it'd be looking at 26 power level or 425 points, which is fine at base level because you have a lot of upgradability in the Wraith Lord. You can upgrade the heavy weapon platform, you can upgrade the Farseer a little bit, and you can upgrade the Wind Raider. So basically all of the units you can see on the screen are upgradable. And yeah, so let's take a look at the minimum points first though. If we look at the minimum points, we're sitting at right around 405. All you need to remove really is the Guardian Heavy Weapons platform, and then you're right around the minimum points level. And yeah, there's really not much more to add here. This is just interesting for people who just want to cram as many models into their list as possible. And yeah, it's just another metric to consider. And as promised, we are going to talk about the maximum points next. And yeah, the upgradability here, when it comes to all the different bits you're getting in this specific box, translate to a lot of points from their baseline. So when we look at the points, we're sitting at right around 585. The Farseer has been upgraded. The Guardian Defenders have been swapped out for Storm Guardians because they have a lot more kind of upgrade options with the Flamer, the Power Swords, the Fusion Gun, and the Serpent Scale platform costs right around as much as the base weapon platform. The Wraith Lord can go from 100 to 165 points, and Wind Raiders cost 60 points base with their base weapon, and can go up to 90 points with shuriken cannons. So yeah, you have a lot of options here. Now 585 points is definitely not bad, but I would consider this one right around average. There are some boxes that go up to 750 points, which is then the high point. So yeah, 585 is not bad, but also not a strong point of this box. If you're new to Warhammer and if you're asking yourself how to play this army out of the box, it is relatively simple. You're usually going to use your Farseer to either buff your Guardian Defenders or to buff your Wraith Lord and make them more durable or make them hit harder. Generally speaking, you tend to go with a little bit more durability because yeah, your Guardian Defenders are your only objective secured unit and they are relatively squishy. Your Wind Raiders are going to be mobile harassers, and the Wraith Lord is just going to either push forward or sit on an objective and shoot depending on which weapon loadout you go with. It is a relatively straightforward box, so if you're new to playing Craftworlds, even though they have a lot of shenanigans and even though a lot of people consider this army to be slightly more complex, don't be intimidated by it, take it slow, make some notes, read through the codex or read through the rules on other pages like Wikipedia, and play your first game and just take it slow. And next up is our FAQ section of the video, and the first question is, what craft world should I go with, or how should I paint my models? And for this specific box, you could definitely go with Simhan, because Simhan is heavily featured here with all the Wind Raiders. Guardian Defenders are useful for any craft world, Farseers are useful for any craft world, and Wraith Lords are usually heavily featured for Ayenden, but yeah, this one seems to be clearly targeted at Simhan, but I always suggest to just paint your models however you want and then just claim there's a certain craft world, so you can just stay flexible, switch around whenever you want. Whenever you get bored of a certain craft world, you can play far-flung craft worlds and experiment a little bit with those trades. But generally speaking, my best advice is to just paint them however you want and then switch between rules whenever you want. Next up is the question, is this box good for a competitive army? And I would personally say no, but I say that to most boxes. If the box is not exceptional and has 90% of the pieces there for a competitive start for an army, I'm not going to suggest or recommend it for a competitive start. If you want to play competitive and if you want to play it seriously, buy your stuff separately, buy all the things you need separately. And the most important thing is to be a quick painter and to understand rules, go over statistics, go over the meta, go over tournament winning lists, and understanding the game at its core. After that, you're probably going to do well with almost no matter which army you play, unless your army happens to be in the bottom 5 or the bottom 10 armies of the current meta. But if your army is at least mediocre, you're probably going to do fine if you're flexible with your budget and with your painting speed. Next up is the question, is this box good for Crusade? And I would personally say yes, it is. If you look at this specific table, you can see that we are right around 25 power level, which is perfect as a starting force for Crusade. All you really need to do is remove the weapon platform for the Guardian Defenders, and you're perfectly square at 25 power level. You can fully upgrade your Wraith Lord, that doesn't raise the power level at all. You can upgrade your Wind Raiders, that is not going to raise the power level, and you can basically do whatever else you want, but you cannot include any kind of Serpent platform or weapon platform, as those add 1 power level to your list. So yeah, this list or this box is a perfect start for a Crusade force. Although I would say that, you know, talk to your group or talk to your friends that you have a Crusade campaign with, because a Wraith Lord at 500 points or 25 power level can be very annoying to deal with. So make sure they are prepared for that and make sure you discuss everything beforehand. And last but not least, is this army or is this box good for a narrative army? And that one is always very difficult to answer. This box is a little bit all over the place, although I said that it has a clear Simhan theme. The Wraith Lord doesn't quite fit that theme in my opinion. And yeah, it is a little bit all over the place, which I see as a strong point. Having unit variety in a box is great, but not usually if you want to go for a narrative force. If you want to go for a Simhan narrative force, you usually want to spam a lot more bikes and a lot more fast moving units instead of Wraith Lords or War Walkers. So yeah, I would probably not suggest this one for a narrative force unless you have a clear plan for your own craft world and have a lore or background for that one. And this box tends to fit or happens to fit whatever you came up with in your lore. But other than that, for one of the bigger craft worlds, probably not. And next up, we are going to talk about upgrades. And the first question I always try to answer is this box worth it to be picked up twice? And my answer here is a clear yes, if you have a plan for 12 Wind Raiders, that is. So having 2 Farseers is usually the meta currently. Farseers are just incredibly effective, great at preventing psychic powers and great at casting them themselves. Having 2 Wraith Lords is not bad at all. I think they're an above average unit. Guardian Defenders or troops are always useful, at least looking at kind of future projections. Having troops is just necessary, no matter if you're playing hardcore competitively or not, because troops are something that GW or their rules team always looks at, and currently Guardian Defenders or Storm Guardians are not that great, and I have a lot of faith in GW to improve them with the next update that should come around in January. And when it comes to the Wind Raiders, those need a slight push when it comes to their weapons. I think their mobility is great. I think their durability is in line with their points, but their weapons are a little bit weak. But yeah, all in all, the army composition, as you can see, it is fine. You could play this at 1000 points. 2 Farseers are great because they are generic and just generally a great unit. and having a lot of troops and 2 Wraith Lords is not a bad deal at all. And when it comes to a couple of general suggestions, I would suggest Dire Avengers. They are a great ranged unit with a lot of damage potential, although they are squishy, but I think that tends to be applicable to all of the Craftworlds units except for the Wraith units. But yeah, Dire Avengers, very effective ranged unit. And if you want a melee pendant for them, it is the Howling Banshees. They are basically your very effective melee unit. They're very fast. Turn off Overwatch, and yeah, they're just generally very, very strong, especially with mirror swords for your Exarch and so on. There are a lot of cool build options here. Other Psyker units that are very good are the Spirit Seer. If you go for this box, for example, twice, and you have 2 Wraith Lords, or if you go for other Wraith units, a Spirit Seer is going to be great at supporting them. A Spirit Seer is basically a smaller Farseer with 1 cast and 1 deny, but some helpful abilities for Wraith units. And Warlocks are basically the same thing, at a little bit of a cheaper point cost, but no support abilities for Wraith units. They are also great. If you're going to paint your Craftworlds models black, you're not going to be able to ignore Aeldari. Aeldari is just one of the best named units in the entire game. Super effective, points efficient, great caster, great at denying, has a ton of special abilities, and is just a great unit all around. So if you're going to play Ulthver, and if you decided for that specific Craftworld, definitely buy Aeldari as one of your first purchases actually. The last 2 things I wanted to cover are the troops choices and a specific other box. So if you are looking at the troops choices of this specific Combat Patrol box, it is the basic Guardian Defenders, and the meta choice currently are Rangers. So if you want to go with a little bit of a stronger troops choice, you could consider buying Rangers, although it is one hell of an expensive kit. So if you buy them separately, it is going to cost you if you want to have 3 of them, just to consider that. But having one kind of squad or unit of Rangers is not a bad thing to have. And the other thing I wanted to just mention real quick is the Eldritch Omens half, because it's not that old, and a lot of you have probably just lying it around, and you're asking yourself whether it's worth it to upgrade it with the Combat Patrol box. And I would say yes, both of these halves, or the Eldritch Omens half and the Combat Patrol box, are generic enough to just mash them together and have a great little army for yourself, so you don't need to think too hard about that. The Autarch is also very different from a Farseer, so those mesh very well as well. So yeah, if you have the Eldritch Omens half lying around somewhere, or if you can find it on eBay, it's definitely worth a pickup for a decent price at least. And yeah, they work together very well. Alright, and now we are at the ratings and conclusion part of the video. I think this box is actually really good and a great start for a Craftworlds army, but there are a couple of things to criticize. So I would give this one an 8 out of 10. The 2 things I would mostly criticize are that you're getting 2 kits of Wind Raiders in this box. I think removing one of those kits and adding a little bit more variety and making it even more universal than it already is would have helped this box a lot. And the next criticism is that the points, even at maximum, are average at best, and that is something that you need to consider, because yeah, Craftworlds, even though they are not the most expensive army, they are not quite cheap either. So yeah, you need to know what you're getting into when buying this box, especially if you consider buying this box multiple times. But that is also one of the strong suits of this box. The Farseer is great. Buying this box multiple times is definitely worth it if you want to, and if you have use for 12 Wind Raiders. And the upgrade path is also great, and no matter which Craftworld you go with, this box is at least a decent start if you buy it once. Buying it twice kind of pushes you a little bit towards Sim Han, but that is just my opinion. And that is that for this box. If you have any opinions of your own, if you want to add anything to the conversation, if you have any upgrades you could suggest or any tips for new players, drop them down in the comments below and we'll discuss things there. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.